Alright, here we go. Going to talk about making a mesh playfield. And I have a feeling most of those requests are coming specifically from people who want a mesh playfield for better saucer physics on kings and queens, right? Right. So we're going to go to our image manager. We're going to find the playfield. We're going to export it. It's already there because I've tried this a couple times and screwed up the tutorial. So we're going to export our mesh. Nothing fancy there. And we're done in Visual Pinball for a while. So we're going to open Blender 2.8 and we're going to get rid of a couple of those default objects. I'm going to go turn on my screencast keys so you can see what I'm doing. So I know all my keystrokes will be down here for you. And the first thing we're going to do is import our mesh, a wavefront with a clamp size of 10, Y forward, -Z up. That's going to give us easy one-to-one import back into Visual Pinball. So we're going to open that up. There it is. There's a whole bunch of garbage here in our way. This thing is the plastics because the plastics are just on a wall, the apron just on a wall. The great loser man menu is there. I could have turned that off in Visual Pinball before exporting, but I didn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to just grab the playfield. So we're going to click on that. We're going to hit the slash key on our numpad. It's going to isolate that layer. So here we have just our playfield. We want to be able to see the playfield. So we're going to go into our shader editor. This is the same thing as setting up materials in Visual Pinball. So playfield material, we're using nodes. And nodes are cool because you can just stack all sorts of different effects together and create your materials. Take down the roughness, make your playfield more glossy, whatever. But our image texture is going to be that playfield that we took out of Visual Pinball. If we look at our preview, there it is. So right there is exactly what we want. Now we know exactly where we need to cut holes in this mesh. And let's see, our view up here. This is a perspective view. This is orthographic view. You want to be an orthographic. Perspective looks cool. Gives you a little bit of like a lens distortion when you look at your meshes. But orthographic, everything is perfectly one-to-one. So really good when you're trying to align things, put things in very precise position. So anytime you're working in Blender, placing elements, I think you want to be in orthographic view. Now I'm going to hit 7 on the numpad. That's going to give us a straight up and down view of the playfield. So now we can see exactly where we need to attack. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to just notice we're in object mode here. If you tab, you move into edit mode, and then you can pull and push on different pieces of a specific mesh. Tab to go back to object mode. If you're in object mode, you're moving all of a mesh. Alright, so in object mode we're going to add a cylinder. I'm going to hit S to scale it down, and then I'm using G and then a coordinate direction and my mouse to move it just along X and Y. So G, Y is going to move it this way, G, X is going to move it this way. I want to scale this cylinder to about the size of, not the actual hole, but the area where the bevel starts. And we're going to cheat out just a little bit because it's kind of narrow and I don't want to do a really beveled hole in this case, so I'm going to cheat kind of halfway through this key line here. Alright, so there's that's going to be the placement of our first hole, and what you can see is that this cylinder is punching right through the playfield, which is just what we want because that's going to be our template. So we'll go back to our top view. Now with the cylinder selected, I'm going to hit Tab. We're going to go into edit mode. And if you hit B, you can draw a box to select. You want to make sure all your vertices are selected on that cylinder. And so you're going to Shift D to duplicate. You're going to click to deselect, and then G, X to slide that over right into place. Perfect. Then we're going to do the exact same thing. Those are all selected. We're going to Shift D, G, X to slide it over, and then notice what happens here. And this just happens with, it's either some stretching from photography or a redraw that just didn't get everything real precise, or maybe it's on the original game. These two were perfectly parallel, and here we're starting to get out of alignment. So I'm going to G, Y. I'm going to align that up visually. Sometimes you have to fudge, right? You have to kind of guess. Should these all be perfectly lined up, and that'll be more accurate to what that original game was? Or do we just want these sitting correctly on the graphics that we do have? That's not a slam on this game or redraw, by the way. That's just the reality that we were working in here. That's why I like to work with scanned assets. They can be so precise if they're done right. Alright, so now we have the 4 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we want to, in object mode, select the playfield, and we're going to add a modifier. The modifier is called a boolean. We're going to do a difference, and we're going to grab this eyedropper and select the cylinder. Okay. So you can see it actually shows us a preview of where those holes are going to get cut out. And it looks exactly right. One other thing I'm going to do, and this isn't 100% necessary, but I like it, is before we apply this modifier, I'm going to go into edit mode on this playfield. I am going to turn my tries to quads, which is going to give us 4 vertices and 4 edges, nothing in between. Okay, so very, very simple mesh. And then I'm going to create a grid system on here, which is like a loop cut. So I hit Control R and then roll my mouse around probably about like that. And then we're going to go the other direction too and create a grid system. Trying to kind of avoid those landing right on those holes. This is going to give a little bit more stable geometry to this thing. If we cut these out and then cleaned up our mesh, we would have all of the vertices of those holes trying to connect just to the 4 corners of this playfield, which creates kind of a mess. If you create this grid, the vertices are going to just grab onto some of these nearest vertices in the playfield. It's going to be a little tidier. You may have a little less complication with physics then too. Not always, but I don't know. So that's kind of optional. You don't have to do that, but it's going to give us a tidier looking finished product. And in any modeling, having a supported kind of grid system on your mesh is desirable. So maybe just good practice. Okay, so we're going to go back. We're in object mode. Playfield selected. That Boolean modifier is there, so we're going to apply it. All right. So now these have done their job. We can get rid of them, and there we go. Now we have holes exactly where we wanted to. And if we take a look, yeah, lovely. But you can see we have all these vertices hanging out here, not connected to anything. Well, we can't have that. They have to be connected. So with everything selected, you do that by hitting A. We're going to just do a little basic cleanup, and you do this on any mesh you're working on. Mesh, cleanup, merge by distance. Now in Blender 2.79, that's the same as remove doubles. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to go to face, triangulate faces. There we go. Now you can see everything's connected. And keeping it all contained here, instead of stretching these all over the playfield down into corners and stuff, is really nice. It's just tidier. And then after triangulate faces, Alt-J, we're going to change our tris to quads. That's going to clean some of that up. So now we have a mesh that can legitimately be brought into Visual Pinball and probably isn't going to throw a big fit about it. And those holes should work. But they're just holes. We don't have any kind of beveling, and so the ball is going to, maybe wing around the edges a little bit and then fall in or go out, but they don't have that actual bevel that a real playfield would have, which gives us some of those great, physics. And so let's go add that. So I'm going to go in here, and we're going to grab. So I'm going to hit Alt, Shift, and then click just inside of one of these circles. It's going to select all of the vertices here, and then I'm going to extrude those. So now I have another set of vertices sitting right on top of the others, and just the ones that I extruded, I'm going to scale along X and Y, not along Z. So I'm going to click Shift Z. Okay, now you can see the red and the green line. It means we're only scaling along X and Y. It's not going down or up. No Z behavior there. So anyway, and the size I want to set it to is 0.86. Okay, cool. And then we're just going to go and we're going to do that exact same thing. Extrude, scale along X and Y at 0.86. Oh, I messed that one up. I'm going to go back. I'm going to scale along X and Y at 0.86. Select these, extrude, scale along X and Y, 0.86, extrude, scale along X and Y at 0.86. There we go, but what happened to the wood that was there? Now it just looks like all key lines, and here it looks real funky. Well, what we did is we took the information that was sitting right here and we just stretched it out to over here. So what we need to do then is go into our UV map and reassign the information here back to its correct position on the playfield image. Okay, so we're going to go to UV editing. Okay, that brings up another view. Over here you can see our UV map and how everything sits. And you can see the vertices are not out here where they should be. They're right here, and that's where they're pulling information from. So we need those new ones we created to be out here so that we can see this wood. So we're going to make sure we're in orthographic view. We're going to look at our playfield. In fact, I'm just going to grab just our playfield and I'm going to isolate it. So 7 directly overhead, numpad /. Okay, perfect. So just playfield, we can even look at this. Okay, so we're going to go into edit mode, so tab into edit mode. Perfectly overhead, we're going to go to UV, project from view, bounds. Okay, and so that took this view, this perspective, perfectly up and down, and mapped it perfectly up and down over here, pulled it all the way out to the edges, which is great, except it's upside down. So over here, with all of the vertices selected, so you're gonna, when your mouse is over here, hit A. You're gonna R rotate 180 degrees. Now you can see we have those vertices right here on that bevel. Perfect. And over here we can see the wood again, which is just what we wanted. And yeah, okay, great. So we'll go back into layout view now and mess around with what actually gives us a little bit of that cool physics response. So we're going to go in and we're going to Shift Alt and click inside each of these circles. We're in edit view now on the playfield mesh. I'm going to grab all of those inside loops. And here's where we create that bevel. Is we're going to G, Z, so we're only moving along Z, up and down. and we're going to pull it down. Let's see, I don't know, maybe negative 0.002. So that'll give us a little bit of a bevel for that ball to play in. Cool. But if you look at your preview here, if we go into object mode, you can see what we've done is created some weird geometry out here where everything looks glossy on the outside here. We don't like that. So in edit mode, we're going to select everything except these vertices. So we're going to Control I, everything else is selected. We're going to right click and we're going to tell it to shade. Oh, where is it? With faces selected, we're going to tell it to shade flat. Okay, so now if you look at it, all that weirdness is gone, and we just get the nice, smooth, kind of glossy looking thing on the bevel, which is neat because Visual Pinball will do that too, based on your environment image. Okay, so that's that. Last time before we bring it into Visual Pinball, we're just going to make sure we're cleaned up. So clean up, merge by distance. We're going to Control T to triangulate. We're going to Alt J to change our tries to quads. Very tidy. Okay. So then with all of our vertices selected in edit mode, we're going to go to File, Export, Wavefront. Selection only, include edges, right normals, include UVs, right materials, objects as OBJ objects, all selected. Our scale is 10. Forward, Y is forward, and negative Z is up. All right. So QAKAQ holes. All right. Export our CAC holes. All right. There we go. So now we're done in Blender for now. In a more advanced tutorial, we could talk about how to go in and create shapes for all the other cutouts, which is a nice thing to do because then you don't get reflections in those holes, which is super great. That's been a weakness of cutting transparent holes in the playfield image for a long time. But then there's also a really simple way that you can use those holes to create your beneath the playfield plywood texture, and it does it. It's almost automatic, really quick and easy, and so you can generate all of those really quickly too. But that's for another time. So now we're going to go back to Visual Pinball. We're going to create a primitive called playfield mesh. We'll import our new playfield. We'll turn this to 1 just so we can see what's going on. Right. And we're going to change our absolute position 0, 0, 0. Our sizes are at 100%. This is visible, collidable. All right. So as you can see, what we just created is now here. So then to set these up so that they work, we want to grab the kickers and we want to shrink them down, because if the ball gets this close, the kicker's just going to grab it and pull it in. We don't want that. So we want our radius to be something much smaller. So let's say 8 for now. So now they're nice and small, and our hit height needs to be lower so that they don't actually grab the ball until it's falling or fall in. We'll do 12 for now. Some of this depends on the table, so it does take some trial and error to get it to work just the way you want. So the last thing we need is some kind of physical object to catch the ball when it falls in here. I've used just basic walls and put walls under here before, but one thing that I really like, and it's on, I'm stealing here now, so make sure you have Deadly Weapon. Not just because it's a beautifully rendered table, but because it has this great kicker cup mesh here. Yeah, that really lets the ball sit in it really nicely. So we're going to paste that. This is an invisible mesh. We're just going to set it right in place on all of these. But it's collidable. Now, if this was something I was going to mod completely, because we've got those holes put in and nothing there, you would put in either a mesh kicker cup that you could see, that would look nice, or you could put in a not enabled but visible visual pinball kicker cup that you would be able to see, drop it right in there. We're going to skip that for now, just for the sake of getting done here. All right, last thing to do then is you almost always have to adjust the kicker strength. That's called the center kicker 1. Because you're kicking the ball out of a physical hole now, and so gotta mess with this a little bit. So I don't know, maybe 10 or 11, try it out. If it doesn't work, then change it to something else. Change the angle, I don't know. A lot of trial and error getting these to work. Okay. I think I remembered everything. Let's just give this a quick test. I got to play this game a bit this spring, and it is really as lovely a game as its reputation would have you believe. And one thing that I noticed is that the kick out from these is not super consistent, so the ball should bounce from here to here to here, but it doesn't always because of that bevel. So sometimes you'll get this bonus, and then it'll kick out and miss and fall. So that's part of gameplay, and so that's something I'd actually like to see behavior-wise in this game. Okay, so we don't quite, I mean, that looks pretty binary yet as far as behavior. I don't know, maybe we need to ramp up the kicker strength a little bit, or give it a little bit of randomness, because that ball just doesn't really play along those edges much. I don't see it. There, yeah, you can see it a little bit. Yeah, okay, so it's there. I think if I were to go do this again, I would maybe create that bevel to be a little bit bigger yet. But again, you'd have to know the table and maybe watch some gameplay videos and make sure you're seeing that actually happen in a real table before you do it. Because really what we're looking for here is realism. But that's not bad. So you can see that those holes are working and they look fine, nothing weird about them. Yeah, cool. So there you go. That's how to create a mesh playfield and then implement. I don't know, I wonder. Hopefully that's helpful, and we can do more advanced shaping of holes and making sure your normals are facing the right way, and creating the plywood underneath the playfield. We can do all that sometime too. Yeah, okay, no real difference in behavior there. Yeah, cool. All right, hope that was helpful.